Welcome to the Florida Man vs. the World podcast with me, Craig Shireen. This is the hard launch of this podcast. My first episode with my friend Frank was just a beta test. I am your humble Florida man, Craig Shireen, respected journalist, college-educated suburbanite, and the unsolicited ambassador of Florida to the United States. As I expand my online brand this summer, which is a goal of mine, I'm expanding my podcast from just the narrations of my articles to interviews with people who live in the Florida cinematic universe to some degree, or anyone who interests me, or anyone who will agree to an interview with me. You see, I'm very small, and I don't know who's going to respond to my emails, but my guest today did. Today I'm interviewing theme park YouTuber Andrew Platt, the newly converted Florida man who goes to at least one of the Orlando theme parks every single day. And that would include the 4 parks in Disney World, the 3 parks now in Universal, if you count Epic Universe, and SeaWorld. On the description on his YouTube channel, he describes himself as the least Disney adult who does Disney daily. And I was very captivated by that tagline because sometimes I feel that way. I don't identify as a Disney adult. I don't own any merchandise, but I love going to Disney, and it's not just Disney. I love going to theme parks. On this Florida Man vs. the World podcast, Andrew's the first person whom I've interviewed whom I did not know beforehand. Why did I want to make him my first guest? Andrew poses an interesting question. Can Orlando theme parks, particularly Walt Disney World, which is the title of his video, cure depression? Which is something that many Zoomers and millennials are suffering from because of social isolation, as Andrew poses. At least, that was the subject of his first viral video on YouTube, the one that I first saw and the one that probably most people first saw. He titled that episode in December, "I Moved to Disney World to Cure My Depression. Did it work?" Which is a great title. This concept very much intrigued me. I'm someone who moved back to Florida from Ohio because I thought that Florida would make me happier. I was born and raised in Florida. I'm a true Florida man. I could not handle the cold, snow, and black ice in Cleveland, Ohio. I came running back to the Sunshine State, and it was the best decision that I ever made in my life. I was right. I did not like my job in Cleveland, and I wanted to be in Florida. Even if I stayed longer in Ohio, I would have eventually found my way back home to South Florida. I need the heat. I need the sun. I need the beach. I need the theme parks. I need the chaos of Florida. It's what Florida men crave. In the end, moving to Florida did make me happier. If I was depressed, you could say that it cured my depression. It's a combination of being in my childhood home, being near family and friends, and the great Florida weather. 0% state income tax helps too. But Andrew comes from Utah, and he completely and suddenly started a new life in Orlando. He moved in September of 2024. He has a remote job, so he can live anywhere. He chose Orlando because of the proximity to the theme parks. Since September 2024, in those 8 months, he has attended at least one Orlando theme park every day, for the most part. Did moving to Orlando cure his depression? What can the happiest place on earth give us? Does uprooting ourselves and changing our lives to somewhere completely new cure depression if we have it? Can it change our outlook on life? Or are you just the same person whether you move to Florida, Utah, or Hawaii? I will try to get the answer from Andrew today. He has done this in the most extreme way. Regardless, as Florida's ambassador to the United States, I happily bequeath Andrew Platt with the title of Florida Man, even though he has only lived here for 8 months. But at the end of the day, only 32.8% of the entire Florida population was born in Florida. Maybe coming from somewhere else is the most Florida man thing you can do. Consequently, maybe I am less of a Florida man for being born here. I never chose to be born here. I just spawned into this crazy swamp. This is technically the second episode of this podcast. On May 21st, I released a video interview with my childhood friend Frank, in which we talked about our mutual experiences together at Disney World and Universal over the years, Epic Universe, and the theme parks in the Middle East, particularly Six Flags Qiddiya, Abu Dhabi Disneyland, and the one that interests Frank the most, the Dragon Ball Z land in Qiddiya, Saudi Arabia. That was more of a beta test to make sure that all my equipment and software worked ahead of my interview with Andrew Platt. Without further ado, we will find out if Disney World in Orlando can cure depression. This is fellow Florida man, Andrew Platt.
So where do you want to start?
I want to start with kind of, I think a lot of times when you watch your videos, the first one that went viral was the one that said, "Did Disney cure my depression?" Which is a great title for a video, right? That's I think that was perfectly designed and it obviously worked out. But you spent a lot of time focusing on Florida and you going to Florida. One thing I want to know about is more description of what your life was like in Utah. What led up to it?
So I felt like throughout most of my 20s, I was bouncing from one hobby to another. Like I would pick up snowboarding and I would get obsessed with that, and I'd get kind of bored and I'd play guitar for a while and I'd move on to something else and I'd play drums or I'd play video games. But then like when I was like probably 27 or 28, I just noticed that I was like never really seeing any of my old friends anymore. I wasn't really enjoying any of my hobbies anymore. And I felt like most of my life I'd just been sitting around inside, just, doing my own thing for so long. And I just felt like there's so much world out there. And I'm like, I feel like I'm not really experiencing any of it because I'm just sitting inside just by myself all the time. And so you know, I just felt like I wasn't really ever doing anything with my time, especially like working from home. I would just be inside all day, not really talking to anybody. And then, I'd make money, but then I just wouldn't really do anything with it. So I was like, all right, I need to get out.
What type of job did you have or do you have? Is it this? I assume it's the same job you have now, or
Yeah, so I do structural engineering for like a family business. I just work for my dad, and so we're able to do it remotely. So I just talk to him every day and we just send stuff back and forth. So that hasn't changed.
yeah. And I guess the only issue would be if he's in Utah, the time change. But so, what are your hours like? Do you just still work in your apartment in Orlando? What are your hours of working instead of 9 to 5?
Um, it kind of depends. It's pretty flexible because my dad will just send me a project and say, "All right, have this done by this time." And so I
Okay.
kind of just do it on my own time. Sometimes I'm working, at midnight, and then other times I'm just mostly doing work all morning. But
Now, did you grow up in Utah? Were you born and raised there?
yeah, I lived in Salt Lake County my entire life before moving here.
And what city did you live in?
I lived all over the county. I've been in Salt Lake City a lot. I was in West Jordan. I moved a lot, mostly in my 20s. But
But you went to high school there, and I assume did you go to college?
um, I didn't go to. I did a little bit of community college and then decided I didn't like it.
Okay.
But
So from high school, you just kind of you started working, and it was that when you started working for your dad, or what did you do outside of high school or outside when you left community college?
I've always had a really hard time figuring out what kind of career I want to go to, and so I bounced from one job to another, and that's kind of why, like, my dad had been trying to convince me for a long time, like, hey, you should come learn engineering. And so finally, I was like, all right, I can't find a better job, so I guess I might as well.
And when you started that, was it before COVID? Were you working in person with him?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working on and off with him since I was probably like 15, but started getting really into it probably like 2017.
And
So
how old are you then?
I must have been like 24, 23, something like that.
Um, So, how much of your day do you spend? Like, I guess in Utah, here's what's interesting to me is that I was born and raised in Florida, not near Orlando. I live in Naples, and that's where I was born. I grew up there my whole life. The only time I didn't live in Naples was for two times, was when I went to college outside of Florida, and then when I worked in Ohio for a very brief time in a corporate job at a truck stop company in Cleveland. And you could imagine going from the sun and Naples is on the beach and going to the beach and going to basically the tundra in
Hmm.
Cleveland. And I couldn't handle the snow. I went to school in North Carolina. I could barely handle the 3 days of snow per year. Utah's a little different because I think it's more sunny than the Midwest. So that's one reason I think I would prefer Colorado over Utah. But I graduated college in December 2020 and I immediately went to Ohio, and I think I have a similar experience to you. I'm a few years younger than you. You're 30? I think you said in your videos.
Yeah.
So I'm 27. It's not too far apart, and I got that sense of depression in my job. in Ohio, as you mentioned, Office Space in your first video, and I thought that that's a very good analogy because I was in a cubicle a day. I worked in person, but the most people, my department was in person in this giant corporate building, like from the 80s and 90s, like Office Space in a cubicle. Well, the vast majority of people at the company, it's Travel Centers of America, TA. If you've driven, you might have seen a truck stop TA, Love's Pilot. And it was very isolating. Um, so I decided to move back to Florida because I had this dream of going back to Florida because of the sun, and I wanted to make a change. And I started my adult life in the same place. I teach at the high school that I went to, and I think it's a very similar experience. The difference is you're not from Florida. I made a comeback to Florida, and I didn't move to Orlando. Were there any other places that you thought about moving to besides Orlando?
Um, Not really. I never really thought about like leaving Salt Lake was never even on my mind until I started looking at Florida because it was just such a unique spot, Orlando in particular, like having all the theme parks right here. I just felt like this is the only place of its kind, like anywhere in the world, where there's so much content all in one centralized spot, and that's open year round too.
Yeah, because I mean, in Cedar Point in Ohio, it's closed half the year.
Hmm.
And I think when you're mentioning I recently watched your video about how expensive it is to live in Orlando, where you're talking about the annual passes, how much that costs, and like if you lived in LA, it's a lot more expensive. And of course, you have Disneyland, but that's a much smaller resort, so you feel as if you get less bang for your buck. I mean, you're paying for two annual passes, I guess three. Do you have SeaWorld and Busch Gardens too?
Hmm. Yeah.
And when did you know when you were going to go to Orlando that you had to get those passes?
Oh yeah. I had everything 100% planned out. There was almost no surprise when I got here. I knew what I was expecting.
And when did you, because I think you released the video in December 2024, and you said it'd been a year. Did you move in December 2023?
No, I moved in Labor Day weekend of 2024. So I had only been there for 3 months when I made that video.
Oh, okay. I was under the impression that it was 12 months already. But how long before then were you planning to make the move? Because for me, going back to Florida kind of just happened all at once. And I quit my job. I got another job at the school, and I had a summer break because I quit in June and started school in August, so I had time to decompress. But how long was it before you, or I guess
Um,
what's the time frame between you starting and then you actually getting on the U-Haul with the trailer?
so I had like had the thought in my mind for about 2 years before I moved, just like it would be cool to move to Florida one day, but it always just seemed like an impossible thing that I never put much thought into. It wasn't until about February of 2024 that I was just like, all right, I got to do this. And that's when I just started seriously looking into it and started actually making plans and prepping for it. And yeah, it was a lot of work. I had a lot of stuff to take care of.
And sometimes when you make those big decisions early in life, I feel like you're almost embarrassed to tell other people if it's something that's very big change. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
felt like when I decided to start teaching because it was just radically different from what I initially wanted to go to law school. And people thought, oh, you're going to make a lot less money, which is true, but it's something that I wanted to do. And for a while, it's in my head, and I'm afraid of expressing that. Did you feel the same thing? Because moving to Orlando for Disney and Universal and theme parks seems like a very could seem like a very strange thing, except especially in Utah, which is just very far away from any theme parks.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to talk or like convince other people that it was a good idea. But at the same time, like I said, I kind of had lost contact with most people that I used to know anyway. So I was just like, well, there's very little for me left in Utah already. So I didn't feel like it was that I wasn't losing much to leave.
So were those high school friends that had moved away, childhood friends that moved away, or in
A
different?
little bit. I actually grew up in a really large family. I have about 40 cousins on my dad's side. And when I was younger, like they were all my best friends. We would see each other on a weekly basis. But as everyone gets older, we all just kind of separate. We just stop seeing each other very much. And so, yeah, there wasn't much left.
If you don't mind me asking, when you say big family, are you Mormon? Are you from a Mormon family?
Yeah, I come from a big Mormon family over in Utah.
And do you
So,
still practice Mormonism? Are you still part of the faith?
I did growing up, but I kind of stopped once I became an adult. So I don't anymore. But my
So
family still does.
your parents are still practice?
Hmm.
Okay. Um, I recently, I don't know if you've seen this movie, but I recently, for me, Florida seems like a fantastical thing in many ways, and it's literally like Fantasyland and Magic Kingdom,
Hmm.
and even all of Florida, whether it's Miami or Orlando, anything. People come there as the second lowest percent of people in all states that were born in Florida, of native born. And actually, I have that data. Only state is Nevada that's above it, which is very
Mm.
transient because it's because of Las Vegas. So
Yeah.
that's what's really impressed me about Florida is that it's uh, coming here. I was born here. I didn't choose to be here. My parents did, and most people chose to be here. So there must be something about it that is attractive. And I know Florida is very polarizing across the country, but there's enough people for the population to be 20 million now. And maybe, I don't know how many people have moved since COVID, because that seems like the biggest inflection point.
Hmm.
Because you said in another video, the people you meet in Orlando, it seems like everyone has moved within the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Like you're not meeting Orlando natives, right?
Nope.
Okay. And does that, I remember my family talking about a period of time they moved to Massachusetts before they moved to Florida, my parents. And my mom had talked about how she felt like it was hard to make friends there because everyone in Massachusetts was from Massachusetts and they already had all their friends. But coming to Florida, she thought that in Naples, it was so much easier to make friends because everyone was new and no one had that ingrained network of friends and family in Florida. Do you feel the same way as a young person going to Orlando?
In a lot of ways, yes. A lot of the people I meet don't have a large friend group around here, and I've also noticed that a lot of people they moved here kind of like to start a new life, and so it I don't want to like degrade them at all, but it sometimes seems like they were trying to run away from something, and so a lot of people have some sort of like past that they're hiding from or like emotional issues that they're dealing with because, they had so many issues back home and they're trying to start over. And so a lot of people seem to have like trust issues or are just kind of weird socially. But
And
yeah.
are these people mostly in their 20s and 30s that you're speaking to?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And where are they coming from when they come to Florida? Like in Naples, it's a lot of people from the Midwest. East Coast is usually Northeast, New York, and New Jersey.
Yeah, I've met people, a lot of people from California, actually. Some from Washington, Texas, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Yeah, pretty much all over.
And why do you think they went to Orlando, or do you think they just wanted to go to Florida? Because I think there's a difference there. Because you specifically wanted to go to Orlando and not necessarily Florida as a whole. Some people have this idea of Florida with beaches, and there's a larger thing with Florida. People want to go to Miami for the beach and the nightlife. People come to Naples because it's quiet. People go all over Florida for different things. Why do you think those people want to go to Florida or they want to go to Orlando?
A lot of the people that I meet are here for the theme park specifically, so it would make sense that they came to Orlando for the same reason I did. But there are very few places in the country where it doesn't snow. And so if you don't like cold weather, like Florida is one of the best spots.
The only places that it doesn't snow, I guess, is Florida, Hawaii, and Southern California, which is pretty much. And I hate the snow, and I don't think I'm going to live outside of Florida because of that reason. Uh,
Hmm.
Coincidentally or purposely, that's where Walt Disney just created their two resorts was in Southern California and Florida. But
Hmm.
what I was going to say about a movie, I don't know if you've watched The Florida Project before by Sean Baker. He just won the award for Academy Award for Anora, director of Anora. But it's a 2017, and it's a very good film about the contrast of you have the theme parks around it, and then you have all the people who have to work at the theme parks. And a lot of the people that work at the theme parks are working hourly wages, minimum wage. It's restaurant workers, and they're living in uh, kind of cheap, lower rent, worse areas of Orlando. While you have all these rich people that are going to Orlando because it's very expensive to go to Disney World. Uh, Less so for a local like you because you don't need a hotel and everything. But these the family that lives in the apartment complex, the kids want to go to Magic Kingdom, and even though it's next door, they can't get there. And at the end of the movie, it's like this magical thing, and it feels like sometimes the fantasy of Florida, the fantasy of Magic Kingdom or Orlando is greater than what it actually is. Have you ever felt that experience?
I mean, yeah, there's a the underbelly's never going to be as pretty as what everyone sees on the surface. But I think it is good that you know, Disney and Universal are very friendly to the areas surrounding it. They give a lot of discounts to the Florida residents
Yeah.
so that it does feel like, yeah, we do live next door, but we're not going to make you pay the same amount that people who are traveling across the country have to pay. So, I mean, I get that it can be rough trying to work these hourly wages and get by, but yeah, I still think that there are a lot of ways to do it better, I guess.
And all the other movie I was going to bring up is a movie called Midnight Cowboy from the 70s, where Dustin Hoffman and John Voight plays a male prostitute in New York that he comes from Texas, and Dustin Hoffman becomes essentially his pimp, and then but Dustin Hoffman is dying of cancer, I believe, and he's or tuberculosis, and his whole life is to move to Florida. He lives in New York, and he thinks of Florida as like this beautiful place in the '70s, sunny, Miami sunny, and he gets to Florida on the bus with John Voight, and he dies on the bus. So like, there's this again in art. There's this idea of Florida being this place that uh, it never meets those expectations. The same thing of there's something called Eiffel Tower syndrome, where people go to Paris. They have this beautiful vision of the Eiffel Tower, and then you realize the Eiffel Tower is just within the sprawl of Paris, and then people go and get depressed. And you brought up the word depression. Did you feel like you actually were you actually depressed? If you don't ask me, mind me asking, in Utah, or was that more just kind of a colloquialism that you used in your title of your video?
I definitely did feel depressed, and to be honest, I still do here. I don't think that it was a cure-all, but I do feel like I have more ways of distracting myself from it while I'm here. At least I'm leaving the house more. I'm not just forced to sit in my room by myself all the time.
Yeah. Did you ever see a psychiatrist or psychologist, or did you just felt like it wasn't severe enough for you want to seek medical intervention?
I have a little bit here and there, but I never felt like it was a helpful thing, so I didn't go too deep into it.
And did you ever take any? I can cut this out if you want me to, but did you ever take any psychiatric like SSRIs or antidepressants or anything?
They wanted me to, but I never got into it.
Okay, because I think that's something people, you talk a lot about young people feeling isolated, and especially remote work. People are not seeing people in the office or on our screens, and a lot of people, they would probably get the serotonin if they were socializing more and they're outside more, and they're taking this artificial stimulus uh, to make up for it. When you ever got to Orlando, did you have any period of buyer's remorse where you've gone all this way to Utah from Utah, all across? It's not like you're moving from Miami to Orlando. It's all across the country, very different place. It's hot, it's humid, not like Utah at all. Did you? Where there's a period of time where you regretted it?
Well, there have been a lot of days here where I have been even more miserable than before I left, but I never felt like I never feel like I wish I could go back because
Okay.
like when I left, like I said, I just felt like there was nothing left for me there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And
Uh,
what do you think are those reasons why you still? It sounds like it's not most of the time, but if you do feel miserable, as you put it, in Orlando, what are the reasons for that? Was it because you didn't know anyone yet, or you didn't really know? It's kind of you made the analogy of like an open world video game, and you hit everything in Utah already and Salt Lake City. And sometimes when you have an open world game, like I remember the Pokemon on the Switch was like open world, and I was used to having it linear. And then it's like, what do you do? It's hard to figure out. Did you feel like there's so much stuff to do that kind of overwhelmed you?
a little bit. I mean, I think that my worst times in Orlando is when I feel like the one thing I came for, which is the theme parks, sometimes just isn't doing it for me. Like I'm getting a little burnt out from going too much, and
Yeah.
just the thought of going out to them just doesn't sound appealing some days. And so I'm like, well, this was the only thing I had left. So if I can't have fun here, where can I have fun?
But do you ever get the sense that people that have annual passes, I don't get the sense they're going to be going to theme parks every day, right? It seems like you go more than you're probably in the top 0.1% of people that go to Disney and Universal, right?
Yeah, probably.
Have you decreased the amount of times you've gone to these parks as you've been there for, I guess, since September. So that's 8 months.
A little bit. In my first 100 days, I only missed a total of 8. So I went to the parks 92 out of my first 100 days. But these days, I probably miss like 4 or 5 days a month. So
And what are
it
the
be,
reasons for that? Are you just tired or you have like an errand to do?
it kind of depends. Sometimes the weather is just unpleasant and I just don't feel like being out there. Sometimes it's like I just had something else come up in the way. Or sometimes it's just like I've already been going to the parks a little bit too much in the last week. And so
Yeah.
I'm just like, there's no parks out there that I really need to get to right now. So,
But the other thing is, like, since there are so many different parks, now there's four Disney parks, three Universal parks with Epic Universe, and then SeaWorld in Orlando. Then, if you want to, you could drive to Tampa to go to Busch Gardens. It seems like you can still get a cycle. Like, how often are you going to a single theme park? Like, how often are you going to Islands of Adventure or any theme park, singular theme park?
yeah, and so with there being about 7, now 8 theme parks, for a while I was trying to keep it like, doing one per day and just making sure I did all 7 every week. But I've kind of thrown off the cycle a little bit. Like I might only do Animal Kingdom once every 3 weeks or Hollywood Studios once every 2 weeks, but I still do Universal probably twice a week because that's like 2 parks.
Yeah,
But
that's easy to get to. The problem, I was talking to my friend that I interviewed last night about how it's, and this is an issue that Universal's going to have to deal with. Going to Disney, it's the best collection of theme parks in the world is Walt Disney World Resort in my mind, because it's within its own reservation and nowhere can ever replicate that, at least not in the US. It'd have to be in the Middle East or something in the desert. But
mhm.
it's very hard to go from Magic Kingdom to uh, Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom. The only ones that are kind of easy to get to are Epcot and Magic Kingdom because they're on the monorail. So, like, what do? You go to the transportation center, right? And then you have to take the monorail to Magic Kingdom, right? Isn't that how you? And then you have to go on either the ferry or,
Mhm.
or you could go on the monorail, right?
Yeah.
So, is it more inconvenient to get to a Disney park than a Universal park?
A little bit, but one thing I really like about Disney is that when you're coming down the freeway, going down I-4, there's an exit that will take you directly to each park,
Yeah.
and you never even have to stop at a stoplight. So it's really quick to get there. There's nothing in your way.
So like today, for example, or maybe one of the days this week, what's sort of your schedule? Like when would you go to the theme parks? When are you working? When are you staying at home or relaxing at home, playing video games or something? Well, how does that? Is it just sporadic or like today? Give me an example of what's going to happen.
Yeah, so I rarely go to theme parks prior to like 4 p.m. Like
Okay.
usually I wake up and I'm doing work all morning and afternoon. And then by the time 4 or 5 p.m. rolls around, that's when I'm usually like, all right, I need to get out of the house, and that's when I'll go pick one. But I always have to pay attention to the park hours because sometimes it'll be like 6 o'clock and I'm like, I want to go to Universal, but then I look and they close at 7. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go somewhere else. So
So after you're done talking to me, are you going to go to a theme park?
Yep, I think I'm gonna hit up Hollywood Studios tonight. It's been almost 2 weeks since I've been over there.
What are you looking forward to doing there? Like Star Wars.
Yeah, I haven't. It's been a little while since I've been on Tower or Rock and Roller Coaster, so I'll probably do both of those. I really just like to hang out, maybe buy a snack, and you know, just see what happens. I don't even always go for the rides.
Yeah, you've said that the theme park you think the locals visit the most is Epcot, and I think that makes sense because you can just relax and you could get dinner at Epcot. And if you have an annual pass, if I want to have a meal at Epcot, I'm like paying $200 plus whatever the meal is. But annual
Mhm.
pass holders, you can just go. I want to go to the Mexican restaurant in Epcot. Do you ever do that? Do you go to Epcot for dinner ever?
Sometimes there have been times where I'm like, I want to eat something, but I don't have anything at home. I'm just going to go to Epcot and like try a couple of the food booths around the World Showcase and just pick a few items.
I saw a meme on Twitter from a theme park person. I don't even know if it's a theme park, but I think it had been someone else. But someone with an annual pass, I think that actually the people that do this are for your amusement. Do you know that YouTube channel where they do the world class attractions? They rate all the
Yeah, I think I've seen them before.
they bring their laptop to Universal in LA because they live close to Universal in LA and they just work in the park. And then I saw on someone comically where on Twitter was I'm gonna bring at Moe's Tavern and Universal and just putting like at Starbucks and putting their computer on the table at Moe's Tavern. And I thought it'd be funny to bring your computer to the Oga's and Cantina and Galaxy's Edge. Have you ever thought about doing work in one of the theme parks?
Maybe. I don't work off of a laptop though, and my desktop computer is huge, so yeah, I'm
It's
kind of stuck here.
hard to move it. Now you've said that you've made friends in Orlando. Do you think it's you have more friends in Orlando now than you had in Salt Lake City when you left?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say so. I think most of the time, actually, since I've started this YouTube channel, I get a lot of people who reach out and want to hang out, like more than I can keep up with, honestly, because it's a little bit hard to like try and coordinate and meet up with people all the time. So sometimes I'll just go to the parks and just wait around for somebody to say hi and then just hang out with the new person each time.
So what about before the YouTube channel?
I was struggling a little bit before the YouTube channel. I've really been trying to get dates, so like on dating apps or just trying to meet girls, and then like I'll go out with them, but if it doesn't work out, I always try to like stay friends with them. So a big portion of my friends right now are just single girls that I've hung out with at the parks. So
What about like do you find how do you find male friends that you're not seeking any romantic interaction with?
well, at this point, I mean, my YouTube channel brings in like 80% male audience. And so, yeah, my inbox is full of guys wanting to hang out right now. I feel bad because like I can't really
It's kind of
hang out with everyone.
it's not it's you can't hang out with everyone. But but before the YouTube channel, you didn't really have any male friends in Orlando.
Not really. No, not yet.
Um, and in Utah, was there an issue with dating? Like, what was the issue with dating? Was that one of the motivations for you to move somewhere else?
So I was actually I kind of had a girlfriend like pretty casually for about 6 years before I left.
Okay.
But like we weren't really planning on getting married. I felt like it wasn't really going anywhere. But part of the issue was that neither of us really had a life outside of each other. So anytime we would try to separate or like look for other people, neither of us had anything else to do. So we would just gravitate back towards each other. So me moving was almost like trying to force us to like, all right, we need to go our separate ways now, and I'm gonna go start new. And you know,
So was she part of that motivation that like you just needed to force it? It was a kind of a mutual thing that she understood that why you needed to move away.
A little bit, I think, because like I said, we weren't really going to get married, and it wasn't getting very serious. And I'm just like, we need to just sort of rip the Band-Aid off.
So was there ever a period of time in Salt Lake City where you've talked about dating apps, they were using dating apps in Salt Lake City like regularly?
Yeah, I definitely, that was always how I tried to meet people since I worked from home most of the time.
So did it work? Were you on Hinge, Tinder, Bumble? Was it working in Utah?
A little bit, I guess. I would say I don't know if because it had been a long time since I'd really used the dating apps over there because I was with the same person for a long time.
Yeah.
And so like I would say I don't have a ton of luck right now in Orlando, but I don't know if that's because I'm in a different place or if it's because dating apps have just kind of gotten worse.
So you've not had luck finding a date. Have you gone on dates like romantic dates in Orlando?
Yeah, I've actually met more girls through my YouTube channel than I ever got from the dating apps.
How often were you using the dating apps? Because that's something that I've always kind of struggled with, and I felt like I personally like meeting people, meeting girls in person, and then it seems like a video game on Hinge, and it's like it's very separate. Like it's again going back to your idea of screens. You don't really know the person, and you have these canned responses, and everyone's kind of just the same. It seems very
Hmm.
surface level. So you weren't really getting dates on these dating apps in Orlando.
Right. Yeah. And like I still try here and there, but it just gets so like demoralizing and draining when you're just like having the same boring conversations over and over again that don't go anywhere. So,
So how do you plan on meeting girls, you think, in Orlando? Like you said you've done that in the theme parks, or how does that work?
a little bit. It's really hard to actually just meet somebody naturally in the parks because most people there are just on vacation. And a lot of times people aren't really hanging out alone either. But it's like if I'm just hanging out at the park alone and I see somebody else who's at the park alone, it makes it a little easier to approach and just be like, "Hey, you want to hang out?"
So that's something I've always struggled with, is actually going to a park alone. I only went to a park alone once. I love theme parks, but my bottleneck is that it's hard to get people to want to go with me because it's a big trip. No one I know likes theme parks as much as me, and I I don't never had an annual pass or anything because I don't live close enough to Orlando to like justify that. But there was one time over the summer in 2022 where I was at a workshop for teaching in San Diego, and I had nothing to do that night, and Anaheim was like 90 minutes away, and it was the last time that I would have ever gotten to ride Splash Mountain. So I drove to Disneyland, and it was like at night. I bought 1 day park hopper. They had to put me through California Adventure, and I got this just sense of anxiety, like someone's looking at me, like I feel weird being alone. I rode the Guardians of the Galaxy drop tower, which used to be Tower of Terror, and I had like a lightning lane for Splash Mountain on the other side, and I ended up leaving. I was only there for like an hour. Like, do you ever get that sort of anxiety, like being alone? I don't know, because it just seems like theme parks are something that you're expected to do with someone else.
Right. I mean, it does make more sense to do it socially, but I don't know. I've never had an issue being in the parks by myself. Out of my like 250 or something visits now, I'd say at least 80% of them have been just me going solo. So I don't know. I guess I'm just used to it.
And yeah, because I think part of it is you have to wait in lines and sometimes very long lines. And the best way to pass time is to talk to who you're with. So, what are you doing in the lines? Are you just on your phone, like looking at stuff or playing on your phone?
Uh, yeah, like sometimes I'll be on my phone, but other times I think I've just gotten really good at just spacing out and just like living in my head for like, the 30 minutes or something while I'm waiting around. But or I'll just kind of be paying attention to the people around me, seeing what they're talking about.
How many people have you actually seen alone in a theme park?
I see it every day. It's not too uncommon, but yeah.
And what do you say to those people? How do you break the ice with them?
Well, sometimes like just being in like a single rider line, you'll just be like, "So you flying solo today too?" Just something like that.
And is it usually people that are similar age?
Yeah. I mean, the single rider lines are not always people that are actually there by themselves, but
Yeah. And do you ever, is the goal like to see a girl and be able to talk to her? Like if you see a male single rider, you're less likely to talk to him.
probably a little bit. But sometimes I just like get so like I don't know. I kind of lose hope in finding single girls in the park because I've talked to so many of them, but then they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm just here on vacation." I'm like, "Oh, well, I guess I'll never see you again."
One thing I was talking about with my friend last night was if you're dating in Orlando and you're going on the dating apps, what percent of these young girl, not when I say young girls, I mean 20s, 30s, single women are in Orlando and are quote unquote Disney adults that are obsessed with Disney to like a disgusting degree, you think?
Well, when I'm swiping through dating apps, I see people mentioning theme parks or Disney or something, probably only about 20% of the time. But even so, a lot of them are pretty casual about it. So like the extreme Disney adults are not as common as you'd think.
And how often does that manifest? Like where it says, what do they do? What do they say in their bio? Like I love theme parks, or how does it? A picture of them in front of Cinderella Castle.
Yeah, definitely lots of pictures with them with the ears on and like in the parks. And a lot of them are also cast members too. So it'll
Really?
say that they work at the parks. So
I've heard that cast members it's very incestuous, uh, and that a lot of people dating each other as the cast members. So there's a lot of young people that work at Disney World, obviously. Um, and your bio on your YouTube says like what is it? The least Disney adult who goes to Disney every day, right?
yeah.
And why do you not identify as a Disney adult? Because if you were someone an outsider that didn't know much about theme parks, much about Disney, they would look at you and they'd say, "What the hell do you mean? You go there every day. How are you not a Disney adult?"
Um, yeah, I do feel like I'm a really odd person around the parks because I don't really care about IPs that much. Like I don't even really watch the movies. I don't really know all the songs. I don't know all the trivia. I don't collect pins. I don't even collect merchandise. Like I don't even own a single piece of Disney merchandise.
Yeah.
But I enjoy rides and I enjoy just being out in a public place where like there are, I can talk to people, I can try food and there's stuff to do. So that's why I go out every evening. It's not so much that I have to be around Disney. I'm not obsessed with Disney. I just think Disney parks are a cool place to hang out.
Yeah, I would say the same thing for me. I never grew up watching Disney movies, like maybe the old ones, but I never grew up watching the princess movies. Maybe it's because I was a boy. I love Pixar, but uh, I don't know. I don't know the princesses. Uh, I even with the other IPs like Star Wars, I've watched all the movies, but I wouldn't say I'm a Star Wars fan, but I was very astounded and very satisfied when I went to Galaxy's Edge for the first time this summer. Same thing with Harry Potter. There's like insane Harry Potter fans. I'm not one of those. I'm not the one buying the scarves and the wands, and I don't buy butterbeer. But Hagrid's is probably my favorite roller coaster in Orlando. I guess in the world, I haven't been to many theme parks, and behind Rise of the Resistance. Uh, and I love that, even though I don't care about Harry Potter as much. I watched all of them as kids. I read the books. Would you feel the same way? Like I love the theming, and that's the reason why I put Hagrid's over Velocicoaster, and it's why I would rather go to uh, Islands of Adventure over Cedar Point in Ohio, which is has the fastest or the tallest roller coaster in the world right now before the Saudi Arabian theme park
hmm
opens. Do you feel the
Yeah. And I mean, it really gets me to question because, like, obviously they put IPs in the park because that draws people in who are fans of those IPs. But
same?
it's like, even if you don't care about the IP, like Guardians of the Galaxy, for example, I've never watched the movie. I don't really care about the movie. But the roller coaster that they built, like, within that theme, is just a phenomenal roller coaster. So
Yeah.
it's like, even though, like, I'm not going to watch the movie, like, I can still enjoy the ride too. So.
I think I watched your video about the best roller coasters in Florida. I forget it, but what do you say your top five roller coasters in the Orlando, excluding Busch Gardens, like just in Orlando?
Um, so I would say it's definitely Cosmic Rewind, Stardust Racers, Mako, Velocicoaster, and then I got a lot of hate for saying I like Tron more than Hagrid's, but I go on both of them all the time, and I stand by liking Tron better.
I like Tron, and people criticize it for how short it is. I think the theming is great. I think the gimmick of you on the bike is really great.
hmm
And I think in your Epic Universe video, you talked about how you felt like you were the last person in Orlando that had been to Epic Universe, and ironically, it opened yesterday, and it feels
hmm
like it's not even opening. It doesn't seem like a climactic thing at all. I've basically seen every ride on Twitter and YouTube so far, um, and you kind of people have commented that they enjoy your videos because you're not being like a propagandist for Universal or
hmm
Disney. Some people are just propagandists, and Universal can do no wrong. How do you think that's going to affect the landscape of theme parks in the next 5 years in Orlando? And how uh, and what, I guess, summarize what your issues with it are now? And kind of where would you rank it among the theme parks in Orlando?
Epic Universe is kind of an interesting park right now because, on one hand, I don't really enjoy going that much because I hate having to spend all day in the parks. It just gets so exhausting having to do everything in the park every time I go. But once it becomes more of a casual thing with annual passes, I'll be able to compare it a little better. But just as like a park layout, I do think Epic has the best ride lineup out of any of the parks in Orlando by quite a bit. Um, and as far as like their food is good, the rides are good, the theming is kind of all over the place. I get that they have like the central hub and then the portals to each different land, but sometimes it feels just like a random collection of like things that definitely don't mix together, all meshed into one park. So it's
Oh
it's
yeah,
kind of a weird place.
because it's four IPs. It's Nintendo, the Universal Monsters, Harry Potter, and How to Train Your Dragon. And you're right, they don't mesh together at all. And I think that's one thing that Disney has done much better than historically than Universal. Like Animal Kingdom as animals, and even Avatar, Pandora. It's a it still fits in because it's nature themed, even though it's fantastical. And I don't know if you know this, but Animal Kingdom was supposed to have a fantastical park called Beastly Kingdom with dragons,
Hmm.
back in 1998, but they built Dinoland USA instead, which is a shame. And How to Train Your Dragon kind of makes me sad because it reminds me what Animal Kingdom could have had. Um,
Hmm.
that has been my favorite park. But do you think that hurts the park that there's no cohesion? It's almost like there's four different theme parks connected to each other. Would you say that that's what it's like?
Oh yeah, definitely. It feels like there's just a bunch of mini parks all
Yeah.
just kind of stuck together.
And I guess I would not say that about Animal Kingdom. I'd say that's very cohesive. Now, there's less to do from ride perspective, but if you like animals, I'd say the whole park's cohesive. And the new land they're doing, Tropical Americas, will be cohesive because it's a continent. They already have Asia and Africa. I would say that Epcot's very cohesive. I know there's two parts of it. It seems like there's the I forget what it's called. The uh, the part with Cosmic Rewind and that like all the mission to space, and then there's the World Showcase. Obviously, is cohesive as a theming. Magic Kingdom is cohesive as a theming. Those lands have been there forever. Um, Disneyland they added Galaxy's Edge, so I get, but Magic Kingdom has stayed the same. Uh, Hollywood Studios to me is my least favorite Disney park for the reason that it's not cohesive at all and it's becoming an IP dump, right? So
Hmm.
it's supposed to be a studio based park. And I think it has the best ride in the world for me. I haven't been to Epic Universe, Rise of the Resistance, but that whole park is based off of Rock and Roller Coaster, Tower of Terror, and Rise of the Resistance, right?
Hmm.
So, and I don't really know what to do in the middle there. And I don't think I'd want to do anything in the middle. And before Rise of the Galaxy's Edge came out, I barely would ever go to Hollywood Studios, and it was called MGM when I was a kid, uh, except to go to Tower of Terror. It's like you're
Hmm.
just going in for an hour to go to Tower of Terror.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Hollywood studios too. There is a lot of space where I just don't know what to do with it.
Do you think that Islands of Adventure or Epic Universe solves the part of Islands of Adventure? Because people claim that Islands of Adventure it actually has a united theme with books. It's supposed to be books. Uh, King Kong doesn't fall into that, but you can see every part of the park from the lagoon. Do you think that like makes Epic Universe better than? I also don't like Universal Studios. I don't. There's some good rides I love, but I don't think that's a good park. But Islands of Adventure, do you feel like it's Epic Universe solves that? You do feel like you're in separate areas and you are immersed.
I really don't mind the seeing all the different lands from islands. I actually like the look of Islands of Adventure more than Epic, I think. Maybe it's just because it's had more time to mature and they've got bigger trees and everything, but
Yeah. And that's the last park in Orlando that opened, and that was 1999. So it's been 26 years since the new park. Um, had you gone to Disney parks a lot before when you lived in Utah as a kid? How often have you been to Disney World before, or any like Disneyland?
funny enough, I had never been to Disney World before I moved here. Um, I did one night at Magic Kingdom. It was an after hours Halloween event like 2 years before I moved here. But the first time I walked into Epcot was with an annual pass. The first time I ever walked into Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom was with my annual pass.
You might be the
So,
only person that that's true for, right?
yeah,
Uh, so you were going in with like zero knowledge, like or not zero knowledge, but very little knowledge about how Disney worked, right? And how the layout was of these parks.
yeah, and it's because I did that one day at Magic Kingdom a couple years ago that I saw Disney Springs and I saw how big Disney World was, and I was like, there is way too much here to see everything. Like you got to move here to be able to see it all. And I knew how expensive it was to buy tickets, and so I'm like, I'm just gonna wait until I can afford to live here, and then I'll explore it.
So have you been to had you gone to Universal before you moved?
Uh, So I took my first vacation to Orlando in the fall of 2022, and then I took the same vacation in fall of 2023, and then that's how I knew I wanted to move here in fall of 2024. But yeah, so I already did Universal, SeaWorld, and Busch Gardens on those vacations.
What other things about Florida do you like that have nothing to do with theme parks that you'd say is better from than if you don't make you not want to go back to Utah?
Um, I do appreciate the climate of Florida more than Utah in a lot of ways because I got really sick of the snow in Utah, and I really just love thunderstorms. And yeah, you don't really get many thunderstorms in Utah, so I'm excited for that.
Do you think in Utah you had a degree of seasonal depression where
Oh yeah, by a lot
okay.
because
And you say you still feel depressed now sometimes. I mean, obviously it's not all every time, every day or what, I don't know your specific situation, but are there things that you think you're going to do beyond just going to theme parks every day to kind of expand your footprint in Orlando? To what do you think you need to do to kind of make the most of being in Florida?
I've kind of always had the goal of like once I start dating somebody or I start to get into more of a serious relationship, then I'll have somebody that I'll want to explore more with. Because I do want to see other stuff in Florida, but not really by myself. So it's like once I have a person to do everything with, then I'll branch out more.
And have you been to like Miami or other parts of Florida that people go to?
I've explored a little bit. I've gone to the Gulf Coast beach over in like Sarasota one time.
Okay.
I've gone to Daytona Beach one time, and I've gone to Tampa a few times for Busch Gardens, but I haven't been to Miami yet. I haven't really gone very far south.
Do you think it's ironic at all that you are willing to go to all the theme parks alone, but you don't want to explore around Florida alone?
I mean, well, that's the thing. I feel like theme parks are the one place that I feel like is good to go by myself. And so,
Why do you think that is? Because it's like a bubble. You're self-contained versus if you're just driving. Because I drove when I went to Utah for that summer. Took a 10,000 mile road trip. It was my first summer as a teacher, and I was alone pretty much the whole time. I drove from Florida to Oregon, down to San Diego, to Las Vegas, and then back to Florida. And I was alone. I had some friends I met with in Las Vegas, and we drove to the Grand Canyon. But I was alone, and I loved it. But I still, that one time I was in Disneyland, halfway through the trip, I couldn't stay in the park. So I kind of it's kind of like reverse of you in a way. Like I
yeah.
like exploring alone. Um, I guess that's it that I have for you. Do you have any other comments? If I want to go to Epic Universe this summer, if I can, or if anyone does, and you don't have an annual pass, how would you suggest you construct that trip?
Well, I personally, I would avoid summer. I would wait until September. The crowds will be way lower. The temperature will go down a little bit, and then you could also include Halloween Horror Nights into your trip. But if you really want to go, in June or something, then just know it's going to be pretty hot. But as far as like a daily itinerary, um, I don't know. Things are changing really fast right now because the Ministry ride has been having so many issues. Like it was on virtual queue for a long time, but then they just now opened it up to a regular queue. And so all the people who couldn't get a virtual queue are just flooding over to Ministry.
And
So
it's
I've
like
been watching
300-minute waits right now, right?
yeah. So I've been looking at the wait times today on opening day of Epic. The Ministry has a 300-minute wait.
Yeah.
That's 5 hours. And then everything else in the park has like a 10-minute wait.
I think I
So
looked on it, and Dark Universe, Monsters Unchained was 15 minutes, and that's supposed to be kind of equivalent to those
yeah.
rides, right? Um,
Yeah.
but how do you go to Epic Universe? Because aren't they selling only for single day? Like you can only go for one day. How do you go? How did you go to Epic Universe?
I've just bought single days during the previews. So I went for 3 preview days. I bought a single ticket for each one of those. And then I'm going tomorrow because the one I'm going to tomorrow was the first ticket I bought because that was like the preview tickets went on sale like right before the preview started, but the official tickets went on sale like 6 months ago. So
And so you're buying a single ticket just as I would. Like you're no different than anyone else going to Epic Universe, even though you have an annual pass. You just had
right.
access to the previews. And don't you have
Right.
access to Fast Pass after 5 p.m.?
There's no express after 4 p.m. with the annual pass. I'm pretty sure we do get discounts with the annual pass to the day tickets, so they are a little bit cheaper.
But do you do have the Express Pass after 4 p.m.?
Not to Epic, but I do have it to the other
Oh.
parks.
Oh, you can't even go Epic. You can't even go Fast Pass before 4 p.m. at Islands and Universal.
Right. So the Premier Pass includes express after 4 p.m. to islands and studios.
Okay. And I guess I would have to buy one day. I can't buy 2 days because what I'm afraid of is if I went there and like ministry's down for the day, well, I can't go. Right. And I might wait another year. So I kind of afraid of going in that first year. And like, where would I stay in the hotel? Do you spend all the money to go to Grand Helios? Or do you go to spend a lot of money again to go to Portofino, Hard Rock to get the fast pass and go to the Universal parks? Or what I was thinking of was going to a Disney hotel which are much cheaper, and then you get early access. And I want to go to Hollywood Studios soon to see Rock and Roller Coaster before it closes and Animal Kingdom. So I think that if I were going to do it soon, I probably would stay at Disney and drive. But what do you think is like worth it? Hey, Grand Helios, you walk into the park.
I don't think Grand Helios is a good value. Honestly, I've seen a lot of stuff about it and the prices are pretty outrageous.
1,500 right now. And then I looked in October is 800. It's insane. But then the Hard Rock is like 600 too.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the time you go. I've seen it half those prices, but yeah, it can get high.
Well, I'm going to let you go, but thank you for talking to me and have fun at Hollywood Studios tonight, Andrew.
All
I'll
right.
post this at like Monday. I'm not sure when I'll post this. All right.
All right. Good luck.